This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Today, the House Special Select Committee for the investigation of what took place on January 6th began. And it is a seminal moment for the Republican Party. We're going to find out once and for all the truth we always knew, but it's going to be canonized. It's going to be set in stone that the Republican Party are hypocrites, especially related to their love of law enforcement. You see, the thin blue line abominations, the violation of U.S. flag code, that flag, you see that flown high by Republicans. They talk about back in the blue, that law and order, all of that nonsense. But just like many other issues, they're liars and hypocrites. They talk about fiscal responsibility and deficit spending, and Donald Trump rose the national debt by like $7 trillion. A trillion and a half every single year, while we were in economic boom times. They talk about love for democracy, civil rights, and voting until black and brown people want to take part in the franchise. It's no different with their love of law enforcement. Until it's their side attacking and killing cops in an effort to overthrow the United States government and overturn a free and fair election. I got two clips I want to play from the opening testimony from Sergeant Gunnell is his name, and Officer Fanone. There were four different cops that testified, and they all said powerful things. But I think these really encapsulate the question that needs to be put to Republicans about where in the hell do you stand? Is it going to be with the traitors, with the terrorists, with the insurrectionists, or is it going to be with law enforcement, the group that you claim to be in support of? Let's start with Sergeant Gunnell.
As a result of that day, we lost officers, some really good officers. But we held the line to protect our democratic process, because the alternative would have been a disaster. We are not asking for medals or recognition. We simply want justice and accountability. For most people, January 6th happened for a few hours. But for those of us who were in the thick of it, it has not ended. That day continued to be a constant trauma for us literally every day, whether because of our physical or emotional injuries or both. While it has not received much attention, sadly, many of my colleagues have quietly resigned from the Capitol because of that day. I'm also regularly called by law enforcement officials and prosecutors to help identify from photographs and videos the rioters. And to be honest, physical therapy is painful and hard. I could have lost my life that day, not once, but many times. But as soon as I recover from my injuries, I will continue forward and proudly serve my country in the U.S. Capitol Police. As an immigrant to the United States, I'm especially proud to have defended the U.S. Constitution and our democracy on January 6th. I hope that everyone in the position of authority in our country has the courage and conviction to do their part by investigating what happened on that terrible day and why. This investigation is essential to our democracy, and I'm deeply grateful to you for undertaking it.
And to add insult to injury, Sergeant Gunnell is also an Iraq War veteran. So we're gonna get to witness Republicans double down on their abuse of this man, sending him to an unjust, unnecessary war, and also to turn their backs on him in his hour of need after the insurrection initiated by their president and carried out by members of their party. The other is Officer Fanone. You may have seen him. He is the man who had a mild heart attack on that day. And he said some very powerful, very poignant words that are in step with the theme of what I'm talking about today.
What makes the struggle harder and more painful is to know so many of my fellow citizens, including so many of the people I put my life at risk to defend, are downplaying or outright denying what happened. I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. But too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist or that hell actually wasn't that bad. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful. My law enforcement career prepared me to cope with some of the aspects of this experience. Being an officer, you know your life is at risk whenever you walk out the door, even if you don't expect otherwise law-abiding citizens to take up arms against you. But nothing, truly nothing, has prepared me to address those elected members of our government who continue to deny the events of that day, and in doing so, betray their oath of office.
Flatly, plainly, simply, accurately stated. They are betraying their oath of office. They are following the footsteps of their dear leader, Donald Trump, by violating their oath of office. It is a disgrace. It's not just an abdication of duty. It is dishonorable, disgraceful, reprehensible. I've said for a long time that to be Republican, after knowing everything we know about Donald Trump and knowing everything we know about the past several decades, you're either stupid or you're sinister. Maybe a combination of both. But to be an elected Republican, it's not just stupid. It is sinister. And to sit back for whatever political calculus you're making and to ignore the events of January 6th, to ignore the threat to our democracy, you are sinister. You are a disgrace. To watch the testimony, I've got a TV going here, to watch the testimony of these officers, ostensibly brave men who have both served their country in military uniform, many of them, and also in this uniform. And it's not a conventional police force. They're not out beating the streets. Their job is generally and fundamentally just to protect the Capitol and its occupants. So the very people who are protected under the cloak of the authority of the Capitol Police are going to turn their backs on them and not seek the truth, to hide their face from the shining light of truth and ignore what took place, which will only effort it to happen again. It will only allow it to take place again. So the ball's in your court, Republicans. You sure do talk the talk, but can you walk that walk? My guess is no, but we will see. What do you think out there? I'd love to know. You can leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for spending time with me on an almost daily basis. I love and appreciate you. I'd love to connect with you on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok when I'm not banned, which I'm banned for a couple days. Don't ask me, man. Don't ask me. I would also ask that you consider supporting my work here on YouTube. You can click the join button, see what's involved, become a channel member for fewer than $2 a month. You can also go over to Patreon, patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. All of those things support my work here and over on the podcast. Again, I love you guys. We're in for a big show with these hearings, and I hope that you check out as much as you can that you're able to. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.